My name's James Blowitt. I'm the Director of Natural Sciences. There's various QR codes sprinkled across here, across the talk that I'm about to give. So I'm about to give quite a complicated talk that's going to lack a lot of detail about interesting subjects. So I'm going to apologise for that at the outset. And that's because there's so much diversity. So we've got this really fantastic degree programme. I think it's fantastic because I run it, and I've been running it for 12 years. It's quite complex in a sense, but I'm going to try and simplify it in this talk. So one way of simplifying it is by using the QR code that may or may not work. It does work on my phone if I'm at the right distance, and if you scan there, then you can say which subjects you might be interested in, and then that will provide you with some information, and I'll talk more about that in the talk. So what is natural sciences? That all depends on the university you talk to, because it's different at different places. So at Durham, a natural sciences student is a student who is doing at least two disciplines. At least one of the disciplines will be in science. So if you've got like a physics and philosophy student, then they are a natural sciences student. If you watched University Challenge and you saw the lad who was really quick on the buzzer, who basically won it for Durham, he's a natural sciences student. But he didn't say, I'm a natural sciences student. He said, I think he said, I'm doing chemistry and physics. So I didn't play that card in the first talk. So Scully is a Durham natural sciences student. Okay, and you might have met Ian out in the corridor. He'll be in 5 minutes. So we're talking about students that are multi-stroke interdisciplinary at Durham, and it's a flexible degree. In terms of intake, we take in about 250, 260 students per year. And when they graduate, about 200 of those graduate. What happens to the other students? They transfer to single honours. So there's some flexibility. So it's not like we're a bad degree program. We're actually a degree program where if students want to transfer out and they meet the criteria, then they can go, and they go with my best wishes for their future. So that's what they look like in the castle when they graduate. So they congregate across to the cathedral, and I have the most wonderful job of reading their names out. Which occasionally can be a challenge, but it's like being a player it's like being in an Elizabethan stage, and you're the narrator at the front. So it's really nice because I know some of the students I know well, so I get to play a part in that as they walk through the mystical portal of graduation. Okay, so I'm giving a complicated talk, so I'm trying to synthesize into what are the key selling points of a natural sciences degree for the first 3 slides. So I'm going to talk about the key features. I believe from my heart we've got a flexible degree that has a lot of choice, where there is depth to the degree. So it's not a superficial degree. You're doing hardcore stuff. It's been around for a long time. Over 160 years, and it's been called natural sciences for 40 years, and prior to that, we had the general degree, and that just stretches back longer than anybody's been alive. So Durham's departmental and degree structures encompass natural sciences, and we're big. So how does that all work practically? So if we take a physics degree, so each year students take up 120 credits in their physics degree, and the physics department have chopped up their 120 credits each year into modules. So Durham students take modules, and the modules they take build a degree. So a natural sciences student would be combining modules from different departments, and the modules are constructed in such a way that they provide pathways through those subjects. So a student doing a natural science degree would combine 2 subjects, and we have a student combining 2 subjects. Ian, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Hi, my name's Ian. I'm going to my final year next year, and I'm on a joint honours path in chemistry and physics. I'm sure Professor Blowitt will explain to you what a joint honours is in a second. But, yeah.
James, it's always James. Might be a professor, but it's because that's okay. Right. So So 2 slides on what the key features are about the degree. So, and to explain a bit about the degree. So we've got students apply for 1 or 2 degrees, a BSc or an MSci, and that allows them then to basically either follow a joint honours pathway, or they can mix and match their own degree to make a degree that maybe they don't see somewhere else that involves science and maybe some other stuff. So all students, and I'll explore that. That's what the majority of the talk is about, in a sense, some of these options. All students have the opportunity of doing a year abroad. All students have the opportunity of doing a year-long placement. There is the option of potentially the transfer from natural sciences into a single honours department at the end of year 1. So just pausing on this last point here, one of the problems that I have with natural sciences is we've got 2 degree programs and we've got all this inbuilt flexibility. Now, the way the world works these days is via databases and UCAS and universities. So the fact we've got this inbuilt flexibility within natural sciences means that when we're trying to advertise the degree program, we can't advertise the joint honours programs because they just sit under a degree program. So if you go and look at UCAS and you look for maths and physics for Durham, it'll basically say natural sciences. So that's kind of like a problem. So what we find is that students come to open days and find out that you can combine subjects that they didn't realise because it's kind of not out there. So we have an issue with advertising that we're looking to, because obviously that's a problem. However, what that means is students come in when they start, they transfer into natural sciences. So our recruitment target's about 230. We end up with about 270, but then actually that means at the end of the first year, a lot of students who've done their subjects say, you know what, I did chemistry and biology, and actually I really like biology. The chemistry is a bit too mathematical. So I don't know why I'm looking at him, doesn't do biology, and then some of those students will transfer out into biology, and they go with my good wishes. So there are about 40 students that transfer out at the end of the first year, and some single honours students come in. So there are good relationships between departments and natural sciences where students can flow, and it's not a monetary issue because I don't have any money at all. So it's always what's academically the best thing. Does the department have space? So if you're going through the process of application, you might not know actually what subjects you want to do. So you can apply for certain subjects, and then over the course of your A-level or IB or advanced high, you might find that actually what you want to do has changed. Natural sciences offers the flexibility that you can change, and you don't have to switch degree programs. So if you say you want to do chemistry and physics, and actually you kind of fancy doing a bit of chemistry and biology, then that's instead of physics, then that's possible. So you can change. You can delay choosing the actual final subjects that you want to do until more or less when you arrive. Kind of the only caveat there is we need to manage chemistry student numbers because of the health and safety and limitation in lab spaces. So we do manage that in the application process. So it's possible to change the shape of your degree at the end of the first year. So by picking up a new subject. So there's so within natural sciences, there are 16 subjects that students can take. If you want to pick up a new subject in your second year, there's about 5 or so that students can do. Students study a selection of the same modules as a single honours student. So if we take physics as an example, a natural sciences student doing physics would do, in essence, the core of the physics program and would do fewer of the optional modules that would only really come into play in like the 3rd year or the 4th year. So the 1st and 2nd year, students would be taking the core of physics, but it would be exactly the same experience as a physics student. And part of the high-level philosophy I've got is that when students what's it like? So how do you feel when you're in physics? I'm asking you different questions. So if you're a physics, because I'm like thinking what you might ask, what's it like doing physics in the physics department and chemistry in the chemistry department compared to a single honours student?
So I'd say it definitely has its challenges because, of course, if you're only doing chemistry, you're spending literally your entire academic year just concentrating on one subject, and there are interlinks between certain areas. However, each department and each subject is not like its own independent world. There's a lot of cross links between them, and especially chemistry and physics as an example, there's a lot of links between them. And so I found that where for example, single honors physics student might know a little bit less about, let's say, atomic physics or quantum mechanics, but might know a bit more about astrophysics because they have done a different module. I will know more about atomic physics because I've done chemistry. So I'd say, it kind of balances out in the end because you get the knowledge from other departments as well.
But culturally, as a student doing physics, no, that was a good answer. But culturally, as a student, so there will be small differences. How important are those differences?
Well, in terms of just like the people you know, is that
So I don't mean I mean what the deal from the department, so you get an advisor in physics and chemistry, but is there a culture like, oh, you're a natural sciences student?
No, absolutely not. And actually, I think, you get treated like any other student within multiple departments. I have two different advisors, one in chemistry, one in physics, which, most students don't have. No, there's absolutely isn't that culture of like, there's our students and then the natural sciences students. Everyone is completely mixed up. You do the same modules as everyone else. You don't have like your own specific modules. I'd say we're very much like integrated in all our different departments.
Okay, what's your bank account number? Because I think I need to pay you that tenner now. So I'm not prepping Ian with any. Obviously you're giving a positive pitch, but that's the honest answer. And and my job is, if there is culturally a problem within that department, it's my job to have those conversations over a long period of time. And I'm sure there's been lots of awkward conversations. So I think that's a key thing, that perhaps to convey broadly, super high level, that I'm here to solve problems, individual problems for students, but also high problems. So if there's a monster problem, I can go to the head of department because I know who the head of departments are, and I know them not on a name level, email level. I know who they are and they know who I am. So that's important to highlight. So I think for that reason, it's a successful program. So there are no compulsory modules for natural sciences students. That said, if you want to do physics, then there are modules that are compulsory, because science is a foundational subject where you've got building blocks that you build up to. So when you do a natural sciences degree, you're not forced to do chemistry, but if you want to do chemistry, then you have to do chemistry modules. Okay, so there are pathways through subjects that you need to build upon, but there's nothing compulsory. We don't force students to take modules that they don't want to do. If you know what I mean, so I hope. And lastly, in the final year, students have to take credits. So a credit is like modules have credits, and so there's different sized modules. So students have to do something where they are doing the learning. So I've brought two examples with me today. A few years ago, I ran a project on making pictures out of Rubik's cubes, because I'm not obsessive. Have you ever been to my office? You have? How many?
Hundreds.
Oh, yeah. So the Christmas tree box, that's got 476 mini keyring cubes in there. The worst thing about that was not arranging it to make a picture of a Christmas tree. It was actually taking out the metal bits of a keyring cube. That left an imprint, not only on my memory, but my fingers. So that was humour, by the way. I don't get out very often. The open days talks are the only. I don't actually deliver lecture courses because I'm busy running natural science tutorials in maths. So this is the only opportunity I get for a large audience to crack jokes, bad ones. So this is a picture of a QR code made out of Rubik's cubes, and it's a working QR code. And so the project was of basically making pictures out of Rubik's cubes. So around Christmas time, that's what I did with a student: mince pie, cup of coffee, sat there for an hour making a picture out of a Rubik's cube. And so so it's taking a high resolution image with infinite colors in essence and producing another image that's very pixelated, low resolution, limited number of colours down to 6 and then trying to visualise what they are. So if you come to the post office visit days, then my slides for that have pictures of cubes in. So that's how I differentiate. So these are less visually attractive. But anyway, yeah, I ran a project. So the students learned basically about, they might have done some coding. They might have used it as an inspiration to do mathematical art. They might have used it in terms of the physics of how the eye views colours, because actually it's not always, it's not obvious how colour works. So there were all sorts of different angles. Then having a natural sciences student involved in that was really interesting. I mean, even if you just look at Rubik's cubes alone, so if you look at this from a distance or squint your eyes, there's the red and blue blobs here appear as a purple. So, how does your eye kind of work on that? So there's a psychology kind of element. So, group theory is used in chemistry, and have you seen it used in physics yet? Or it's used at higher level in sort of theoretical physics, and it's also taught by the maths department, and everybody uses different notations. So basically, students have to do a project. Okay, so I think those are I've kind of diverted off there and gone tangentially because I'm still enthusiastic. If you need a more mellow, measured talk, come back at the last talk today and I'll be wiped out. So what do our students think about the degree? They believe it's quite a flexible degree program. And so one student said, thank you, around about this time, a number of years ago, and baked a triple layer Victoria sponge cake with buttercream icing with a sort of like a licorice colour. And there, just in case you're worried, there are no more than 9 red pieces of icing or of any of the colours. That wasn't my concern when actually that was my concern when I looked at the cake, just to check that it had that proper integrity. So, and I've been running natural sciences for, if I didn't say, I think this is coming to the end of my 13th year. So, and I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't enjoy it, and the university wouldn't let me do it if I was doing a bad job, because it's fairly important. Okay, so this looks like a really complicated table. So I'm going to try and simplify it because I'm trying to give many messages with this image. So on this slide, I'm telling you about what joint honours degrees we have within natural sciences. And what that means is that there's a reasonably prescriptive set of rules that students have to abide by, and we also timetable sets of modules to work. So if we look in terms of the subjects, we've got anthropology, biology, business, chemistry, computer science, earth sciences, economics, geography, maths, philosophy, physics and psychology. So Ian is doing chemistry and physics. If we look along the chemistry row and we look along the physics row, there's a star. It's a white rectangle. So a white rectangle means it's joint honours offering. A star means that we do a BSc in it, and a hash means that we do an MSci. So Ian is a hash. Okay. So he's doing the MSci in chemistry and physics. So if you want, there's a version of this on the web. If you find the appropriate web page, and there are some links that you might click on. So if you click on this link, it'll tell you exactly what the rule is, and then you can drill down further, find out what the modules are, and so on and so forth. These slides are going to be on the Open Day slide portal. I've no idea where it is, so I'm just like wheeled out and dropped off here, and I get picked up scraped up at the end of the day. So, the online version does provide details about what is within those modules. So, what are all these other colours about? I am naturally drawn to the colour red because that spells something's not right. So, if we look at economics and computer science, what does that red there mean? What that red there means is that it does not mean that students are unable to do economics and computer science. What that means is that we can't actually guarantee with any degree of certainty that combination of modules will work. So if you think about how the Consumer Marketing Act would work, if we're promising something we can't deliver, then that's our problem, not the not the customer's problem. So in terms of the way we manage these red blobs is when students apply through UCAS, if they're doing one of those combinations, then we ask them to pick a third subject, because then that's going to increase the flexibility. So in terms of the timetable for October, so imagine that the student who's applied to do chemistry, who wants to do computer science and economics. We imagine they applied last October, they have an offer, the timetable's just been released. But they only really want to do computer science and economics. How's that going to work? Well, when they get their A-level results, I sit down, have a conversation, and if the key modules timetable, great. If the key modules don't timetable, we have a conversation, and we try to find a solution. So we can't reorganise the timetable. So in that case, the conversation would be around the extent to which a student could manage that clash. And if they find they can't manage it, then I would facilitate a transfer to the single honours department of their choice. I've never had to do that. Because normally the student says, I want to do these subjects, so the key modules. This isn't offered anywhere else, because the joint honours pathways are the popular pathways. So then the student does the key modules that they have to do, which then opens up the second and third year. And once you get past the first year, then in most of the places, I think everywhere where there's a red, there's enough flexibility that some combination will work. So that's how the reds work. The blacks are basically, if you want to do physics and physics, then you should do single honours physics. Psychology and philosophy, that's a joint honours program in its own right that's managed by the philosophy program. So the yellows and oranges are the extent to which we think it will work. So amber means it's probably going to be okay, and we're fairly confident. Yellow means that actually that's going to be perfectly fine, but we don't know what will timetable with what. And the green means that behind the scenes we timetable physics and earth sciences, but we don't advertise it, because what we find is students that do chemistry and physics, they get to the end of the first year, they can't transfer into physics in their second year. They want to do as much physics as possible. They really don't want to do chemistry. What else can they do? They can do earth sciences. So that's what we timetable there. So that's why that's green. And a student that wants to do philosophy and geography had better do it. Neither of those are sciences. So that's why they're in that purple. Okay, so I'm happy to take questions at this point, because it is a complicated slide and you did have an early start this morning. So we ask that students specify their subjects because that helps to frame the offer. So we can look at the A levels or IB that they're doing, and then make sure that we set the targets on those set the offer at the right level. It also helps us manage the number of chemists as well. So they don't firmly decide. That's correct. You know, if they don't specify chemistry and then they want to do chemistry, we have to have a conversation. And normally we can't guarantee that until we know what most of the registrations are. But otherwise, there's flexibility inbuilt. Yes, madam. Yes.
On your website, you've got three subjects: sports and education. Where do they exist?
On the next slide. Excellent. So that's happened twice, and not that question, but it's like a question, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I've got that, so I've been doing this a long time. So hopefully I'm anticipating. I did get asked a question in the last talk. It's like, I don't know the answer to that. I don't know whether it's a good question or not, but it was a question I didn't know the answer to. So I'll have to, when I have a bit of downtime. So you've checked out the website. Thank you. What this tells me is that I don't need to tell you information about what's on the website. I need to give that stuff that's not on the website. So students can do education, can do sport, so they can build those into the degree. So what this slide is telling us is the joint honours combination. It does two things. It tells us the joint honours combination. So Ian's doing physics and chemistry. There's a straight line there between those two subjects. That means that there's a joint honours combination. Now, one of the people in the last talk said, does anybody here want to do a 3-subject combination at all? 3 subjects. Yeah, what subjects do you want to do?
Maybe like chemistry, physics.
Chemistry, physics, biology. I'll come to that. I'm pleased you said maybe, but I'll come to that at the end. Somebody who doesn't want to do chemistry, physics, and biology. Biology, chemistry, and geography. Okay. All right. So I'll pick another example, but I'll pick one of the. Let's say a student wants to do physics, chemistry, and maths. Okay. But I'll come back to the one. So if they want to do physics, chemistry, and maths, there is a triangle. So between each of any 2 subjects, there's a joint honours combination. But here I've got a triangle. So roughly speaking, where there's a triangle, then those subjects, there's a set of modules that will timetable and they should be clash-free. Okay, so your question was biology up the top, chemistry here, and geography. Geography's over here. Now, there's no link between geography and chemistry, but geography is super flexible. So can you do biology, chemistry, and geography? Yes. You do 60 credits of chemistry, 40 credits of biology, 20 credits of geography. So just geography, just think no problem. Biology, chemistry, physics. Yep. So maybe. I'm pleased you said maybe. So roughly speaking, where there's a triangle, you can do that 3-subject combination. There'll be something with timetable, and we find that between 90 and 95% of students only do 2 subjects in the first year. So the 3-subject combinations typically is a platform for the student going into the second year. Chemistry, biology, and physics, that does form a triangle, but that's the only triangle where it's not possible to combine those 3 subjects, because lurking in the background, there is physics requires you to do mathematics. Now, each year students take 120 credits. That's the same across the UK. And so if you want to do chemistry, you have to take 40 credits of chemistry in the first year. If you want to do biology, you have to do 40 credits of biology in the first year. And if you want to do physics in the first year, you have to do 40 credits of physics, which is so far 120, plus extra maths, which is 40 credits. That takes you to 160 credits. Students are only allowed to do 120 credits in total. So combining chemistry, biology, and physics isn't possible at Durham. But 2 out of 3 of those is possible. So thank you. Good. That was a good question. So that's basically this slide. So you can see if there's not a triangle, it all depends on the subject and the context. Science tends to be highly prerequisited. So in other words, there are key building blocks. So if you want to draw a triangle in a science, okay, I'm going to. Anybody got a question on this slide? Yeah.
Is it possible to do 2 subjects without always not do one, for example, chemistry?
So chemistry and computer science, I'm proud to say, yes, you can do that after feedback 1 year from a student. So a student was doing chemistry. There's no line there. He wanted to do computer science. So I made sure that chemistry single honours and computer science timetabled. If you want to do chemistry in year and computer science in year 2, you have to do some maths alongside that. So yes, you can. There's like 100 credits that will work, and they're the core credits for the second year, and then you've got 20 credits free to play with. If you kind of want to see the richer information about what the core modules are, then you can use the QR code. And I don't know if this works beautifully. No, it doesn't. Okay, so there's a QR code coming up in a few slides that breaks down this sort of, because I'm not being precise and I'm giving a really complicated talk, but there are pathways of subjects. So what I've been talking about is we've got joint honours degrees. Then I've been talking about degrees where you can basically self-build a degree. So what sort of self-build degrees might you be able to build? Well, 2 ones that are kind of relatively new in the last 5 years that maybe aren't well, Durham certainly doesn't have it, are a data science degree. So if you're interested in collecting large amounts of data and then analysing them because you see that as being the future, and that is pretty much the future right now, then you might be interested in doing biology and some computer science because you're going to collect data in biology and you need to be able to analyse it to pick stuff out. So that is a degree where you can self-build. It's not a joint honours degree, but we don't advertise it. So we've got this great degree program where you can do these non-standard, and it's not interdisciplinary in a sense. There's no connection. It's between those two subjects, but kind of now there is. So there's flexibility to do that stuff there. The second example of a self-build degree might be a climate science degree. So you might want to do some biology where you're doing ecology, and then you might want to do, well, other disciplines that have climate science in them are earth sciences have climate science modules, geography because they're interested in people and the impact of social cultures and climate change, anthropology are interested in peoples and cultures as well. So there's all sorts of disciplines that have a bit of climate science in there. So you could do a really interesting combination of 3 subjects with the ecology at the core. So we've got these different degrees where you can self-build a degree, and they fall under 2 umbrellas. We've got an MSci, and if you're doing an MSci degree that you're self-building, then one of your subjects must be earth sciences, chemistry, computer sciences, maths or physics, but you can only do biology if it's part of a joint honours pathway of biology and chemistry or biology and physics. Okay, so if you're self-building a degree, your subjects that you're going to be end up doing in the 4th year will be limited. And in general, for the natural sciences degree, it's roughly, as long as you do 50% science, that's what we're looking for students to achieve. Okay. Are you still with me at the moment? I'm getting like a bit of a dead spot here. Yes, madam. MSci's 4 year, yes. Thank you. Good. Right. Okay. So I've written an app. I've written it. It's not corporate. There's no purple there. There's no, there's all of that corporate stuff is stripped away into just a very basic piece of PHP and coding that I've done. So if you scan in that, you can select the subject that you're interested in, and then it will tell you about how you self-build a degree. It will tell you if there is a joint honours between those subjects, and it will give you basically the boiled down, it's a bit like going to KFC and having a bit of chicken with the bones taken out. That's how I best describe it. There are other providers of fast food, but it's kind of I've tried to remove the complexity and also give you detailed module information. So it will even tell you what the core modules are and what the content is and what the mode of delivery is and how it's assessed. So what we're looking then is what the study goals are is students need to take the same key modules as single honour students. They have to take those modules to high level. And if you want to know what's in a biology degree, go to the biology talk and get the most fantastic talk by Gillian Campling up there, who's brilliant. So are the QR codes working? Yeah? Okay, good. Okay, so in terms of the depth, all students have to take a project. So on the MSci, if a student's doing biology, chemistry, physics or earth sciences, then they're actually going to be doing some research, working at the cutting edge of science. Do you want to talk? Do you know anything about your project yet?
Yeah, so I'm doing my master's project in chemistry, but I'm actually working in the materials chemistry lab within the chemistry department. So I'll be working on the project. I've got a few details. It might be on something involving epoxy resin, but I don't have really that, much more detail than that. However, I know it's going to link a lot in with physics as well, so I'm going to be able to use sort of both my subjects throughout the year. So, yeah.
Okay, good. So, if you had to describe material science to a mathematician, So, okay, how would you? So, in other words, how would you? What is material science?
Well, it's basically just the analysis and the characterization of materials, be they solids or liquids or soft matter, there are things in between. I don't know if any of you have done an experiment at school with like cornstarch and either as a solid or liquid. And yeah, it's just investigating those properties basically. So it's a very, very broad subject. It's got a lot of applications in industry. So, for example, let's say Airbus, the plane manufacturers, they've got a massive material science department because they need to make sure planes are strong enough but also flexible enough and light enough to fly, stuff like that. But yeah, it's a very, very broad subject.
Thank you. Excellent. Brilliant. Yes. So, yeah, the cornstarch. So we did a party for my kids when they were they're obviously not 7 anymore, they're much older. So, and the cornstarch thing was one of them. Just give it a good slap, yeah? And it's a solid. Yeah. Okay. Right. So Ian's doing a project. It's going to be at the cutting edge of research on epoxy resin, but there's, and that's going to be bringing bits of your degree together, hopefully. Might end up with your name on a research paper. That'd be nice. So in I'll call them wet-based sciences, it's far more clear that the student's going to be working in a lab. In terms of a student, maybe a student doing maths and physics, they're going to be writing a larger project on some, complex maths and maybe particles, or might be astronomy, or it might involve some programming. So there's all sorts of elements of bringing their degree together. So that's what the master's students tend to do. The BSc students tend to do something that's dialed down a bit. So they might do a literature review or a small dissertation. We've got some modules where students go out into local schools and reflect on the learning that's going on in the school and write a portfolio of material. Obviously, there's my Rubik's Cubism project that I had half a dozen students do. About 15 years ago, when 3D printers were not ubiquitous, I ran a project of looking at applying some maths into a 3D scenario of a 3D printer, and the students basically made some 3D objects. So they actually these first two, this one and this one. So this is the Sierpinski tetrahedron. This is the Menger sponge third iteration. So it's got bits blocked out. I can't remember what this one's called. I'll have to figure out. This is a Koch snowball. So this is a fractal. So it's something that's got fractional dimension. And I'm not really going to describe what a fractional dimension is, but I will describe the object. So what we've got here is a tetrahedron. So that's a triangular-based pyramid. And we've taken that tetrahedron, scaled it down by a factor of 1/2, and then on each of the 4 sides of the tetrahedron, we take that mini tetrahedron that we've scaled down and stick it on. So we've got a mini tetrahedron, scale it down by a factor of 1/2 to make a mini tetrahedron, and then on each of the available sides of the mini tetrahedron, we stick a mini tetrahedron. And then we take the mini and so on and so on and so on. And what you find is you end up with an object that has finite volume, so you can cup it in your hands, but it has infinite surface area. This shape here, this Sierpinski tetrahedron, if you look down the end, and you're welcome to the end, just don't drop it, it's got a self-similar structure which repeats itself. And hold it back. I'm sorry, I was going to ad-lib there, but I've stopped it. And it's also super, super light, because this actually, if you carried it on, would have no weight. It would just be a complete mask. Okay, so the project was basically the students came up with the idea, and then they had to code up how you would make this thing within a 3D printer. They did some maths behind the fractals of it, and the students did the learning, and my job as the supervisor was just used to bounce the idea and basically project manage them. So that's the sort of things that students can do in projects. We've also got a module called Science Enterprise that is for natural sciences students, that is... and it's not compulsory, so that's the first thing to point out. So it is optional, and roughly I think about 20% of students elect to do that. So the idea is they come up with an idea of a product or an idea or a concept that they think they can commercialize, but it needs some research and development. So they make a slide deck that they put to that they're planning on putting to a body called Innovate UK, and as part of that process, the student groups have to team up with a real company. So if you want an example, one group of students had a plastic eating mushroom. It wasn't a real thing that would work commercially. It needed a leap of faith. So they had an idea of a plastic eating mushroom. The idea that they came up with was that the product that this plastic eating mushroom produced could be used as packaging that then Corn Foods might be able to use. So they then got in touch with Corn Foods, convinced them that this would be a good idea if it were a real product, and then the students wrote a slide deck about the commercial viability of this and the structured idea behind the research plan. So there are elements within that. There are elements of commercialization, of law, of business, about logistics, how all that stuff might work. And there's also going to be some biology and chemistry within there. So it's a real opportunity for interdisciplinarity. It doesn't just mean that biology and chemistry students can do it. It means that psychology students can do it because, there are some idea. I mean, one student group this year came up with an idea of a device that you would swallow that was a little bit like a tapeworm. So if you said to somebody, "Oh, swallow a tapeworm, it'll do you good," you might think, "Don't fancy that." So there's a whole idea about how culturally you can maybe shift people's and society's perception about the value in doing something that is not currently socially a good idea. So there are elements of that to the project. So to Science Enterprise. So just to say, it is not a compulsory module, but for the students that self-select to take it, it is their favourite module, most of them, because they've got complete ownership of the idea. Okay, so all of our students have to do a project where they're the leaders on the project. This slide is all about flexibility. So the students have to do 120 credits each year, and the modules, I've got 7 minutes left, haven't I? 17? Wow. Okay, cool. Okay, I've got so much more I can say. Right. Okay, so this slide talks about flexibility of the degree. The students take 120 credits each year. So this slide explores two elements. First one, and that you can get through the QR code, is what is the minimum amount that I can take in this module? So you're on a self-build. So just to be absolutely clear, joint honours students, roughly speaking, take an equal balance of both subjects in all years until they get to the last year where maybe they can specialise a bit. Okay, so that's a joint. This slide doesn't. If you're only interested in two subjects as an advertised joint honours pathway, ignore this slide. If you're self-building a climate science stroke data science degree, this slide tells you a bit about the rules. That's the first two, the second and third column, and the fourth column tells you a bit about the extent to which you can specialise in one subject. So in the second column, in the first 3 years, you are not allowed to specialise in one discipline, and you're not allowed to over-specialise. So you're not allowed to specialise in one discipline because that makes you a single honour student, and we need to differentiate students between degrees in some ways, because we can't have students doing the same set of programs of study, same modules each year, and then walking away with different degrees, because that's just would be a mockery. Okay, but you can specialise in one subject in your fourth year, because if you're doing maths and economics for 3 years, economics don't offer modules in the fourth year. So in that scenario on the MSci, you would do one subject of maths in your fourth year. Okay, so this column here is about the number of credits that you can do at each level. So in the second year, you can pick up a new subject, and the new subjects you can pick up are earth sciences, business, geography, education, anthropology, computer science, and I'd venture to say sport as well. So there are subjects that students are, just in case I don't know, maybe Ian loved, maybe at the end of your first year, might have hated chemistry. Obviously you didn't. But if you had, I'd have been directing you either towards earth sciences or business, just so that, you could walk. So, and in that scenario, you would be, if sort of working with the other things in the scenario where you couldn't transfer to physics, you would be, as I like to say, doomed to doing 60 credits of another discipline. Which is but in terms of the learning outcomes on the degree, you'd in essence be very, very similar to a single honours physics student. It would be just you'd have done, you wouldn't have done as many of the, perhaps one fewer pathways through your physics degree. So it's not as disaster. It's not a total disaster. So the other thing is that there's a limit to the amount you can specialise in. So if Ian on the pathway where he hated chemistry, he could have done 100 credits of physics in year 3 and 120 credits of all physics in year 4. So, okay. So, are people sleepy, or am I sleepy? Because I'm not. Yes, it's interesting. They were rolling around in the aisles in the last one, weren't they? Okay, so. Maybe that's just drop in energy. Right, this slide answers the two key questions: minimum buy-in and the extent to which you're allowed to. You need to take a discipline to be able to transfer. So let's look at the second row. Biology. Say you're interested in biology. Question: how much biology do I have to do in the first year to be able to do it in my second year? I'm not talking about joint honours here. I'm talking about students who are on self-billed degrees. So if you want to do biology in your second and third year, you have to do at least 40 credits. That's 1/3 of your time studying biology in the first year. If you want the option of a transfer out of natural sciences into biology at the end of the first year, you have to do an additional 20 credits, in total 60 credits, and students do 120 credits each year, so that's 50% of your time. So if you add up all of the numbers in all of the rows, apart from the physics row, then if you do 60 credits in your first year, half of your studies in a discipline in science, you've got the option of a transfer out of natural sciences. And I'll see 40 students do that next week, and they'll go with my blessing, and I'll be very happy for them. Okay, but you might need to do some extra work. So the counterexample is physics, because physics has a maths requirement in year 1. So there are two sorts of maths, and as a physicist, you would have done some maths in the first year. Do you want to reveal exclusive? No, it's not exclusively.
Yeah, so I did. So as part of physics, you have basically choices or two choices between what sort of maths you want to do, and I actually came into university wanting to do, in my first year, I wanted to do maths, physics, and chemistry. So this bit here, that maths there, is actually like kind of pure and theoretical mathematics. So there is a little bit of flexibility there. At the end of my first year, I decided to drop the maths basically. But whatever happens, if you do want to do physics in the first year, you're going to have to do 40 credits of maths, but they can be either more applied to physics or it can be a little bit more theoretical, I guess. Was that a good explanation?
That was good. That was very good. Yes, thank you. So, or as I prefer to call it, so Ian did the abstract maths for mathematicians versus the functional maths for students that have to do maths as collateral damage, if you like. Okay, that's good. So basically, if you want to do physics with the option of a transfer out at the end of year 1, you have to do 100 credits. So that means if you want, you can explore and do the arithmetic, and you can see why biology and chemistry and physics becomes an impossibility in that scenario. So I think these numbers in red are the additional maths requirement that if you want progression into year 2, then you need to take some extra maths somewhere. So if we look at did somebody say they wanted to do I was talking about chemistry and computer science earlier. Thank you. Yeah. So in here, we can explore that here. If you want to do chemistry, then you have to do 40 credits, and you have to do some maths extra. And there's actually 3 choices of maths that you can do, one of which would be the choice Ian chose, which is the 40 credits here. So that's 40 credits of chemistry, 40 credits of maths, and then if you want to do computer science, that's an additional 20, and this 20 can be the 40 credits of maths that Ian did. So that's all good. So that's 40 plus 40, which is 80, plus 20, that's 100 credits. I'm too detailed in these talks for my own good. It's like a curse, because for those of you who like beautiful broad brushstrokes and wonderful pictures, I'm not painting that scenario. I'm painting one-on-one, I think I give good advice, and I can, okay. So basically, and I think the other key thing about this abstract maths, you do need to have be taking at least an AS level in further maths to be able to do this at school. So if you're not doing that, we can have a conversation. But from the application point of view, don't say I want to do maths if you're not doing at least an AS level in further maths. If you want to do a straight maths degree, you need to have an A level in further maths. So this is a side door entry into the maths program, but only at the end of year 1. In terms of background, because I think A-level requirements, if you want to do biology, you have to be doing either biology or chemistry. If you want to do chemistry, you have to do maths and chemistry. If you want to do computer science, you have to have maths A-level. Earth sciences, just A1 science be okay. Maths A-level and AS level further maths. Maths and psychology, you need a grade B at GCSE maths. Okay, so students can do a year abroad. Roughly speaking, 5% of the students do a year abroad. And if you look at the QR code, they'll take you through to the website about that. It's competitive, so students only apply for that once they're here. Students can also do a full placement year, so it's a sandwiched in between the 2nd and 3rd year on a BSc, or on the MSci, you can take it sandwiched between the 2nd and 3rd year, or the 3rd and 4th year. Ian?
So I did a placement year. I did it between my 2nd and 3rd year, and I absolutely loved it. I really can't recommend it enough. I've done quite a few of these open days at London University. Every time I go by the Careers and Enterprise service, which is in the Platinum Centre, I always rave on about it, just because it is really an amazing opportunity to go out and work. You're treated as an employee, so you can really get the experience of working. I was working at a pharmaceutical company in a quality assurance lab, so I was applying what I'd done at university. I was working in chemistry every single day, and if you do manage to find a placement year and manage to go and do what I would absolutely recommend it. It's really great experience.
Thank you. It's good, and it's good it's helped you in terms of employability.
Oh yeah, So I actually used a lot of the sort of things I'd done in my placement to apply for a summer internship for this summer. Definitely, it's in terms of something that you can put on your CV, it is massively valuable, and a lot of companies who employ placement students will have either like internal tracks or recommendations, or can even offer you a graduate job at the end of it as well. That depends on the company, of course, but I know a lot of people do get that if they do well in their placement year. So it really is an amazing opportunity.
Smashing, thank you. Right, so there's a QR code, and you can go to the website for that. Career prospects. This is taken straight off our website. A lot of our students go on and do masters programs or PhDs. Doing an interdisciplinary natural sciences degree, a perception I think amongst interested parties are that somehow you're going to get less of an opportunity than you would compared to a single honours degree. But actually, I honestly believe it provides you with a broader background, and the ability to think in more than one way is incredibly valued. So actually selling yourself to the employer about the skills that you have is a far more, biology and chemistry, but when you're taught in biology and chemistry, is it somehow, do you have to like flick a switch between biology and chemistry in terms of the brain and your brain and the way you think?
I'm guessing chemistry and physics, right?
Yeah, sorry.
I mean, in terms of very specific things, so like I think you mentioned earlier notation, sometimes between the two subjects there can be slight differences in the way we write things. However, once you get deep enough into your studies, everything merges together basically, and it's more of an advantage than anything to do multiple subjects because you can deal with the same problem from multiple angles. So no, I'd say it's more of an advantage really rather than like something that confuses you.
Okay, good, thank you. Right, so median salary, my son's graduated, so my daughter earns, when she graduated, so she went to another university, did a natural sciences degree there. She earned more than a starting salary. My son didn't do a natural sciences degree at another university. He earns less than that. So as a parent, I think that's not a bad figure. So I'd be delighted if my son was earning 31k. He's just moving down to London on Sunday. Anyway, testimonials. So just to summarise this slide, this is a student that went to do a PhD at Oxford. I've had feedback from other students to say that actually the natural sciences, the PhD they went on to, the degree they did here was absolutely perfect, and the supervisor is looking for more students like that. This slide basically says there's more to Durham than just the degree. There's sports, there's the student experience, and you can ask any student about their experience in college, and you'll probably have to tell them to shut up at some point. Maybe. So otherwise they wouldn't be employed to be ambassadors, but it will be with true enthusiasm, not fake. This is a student that did the same subject combinations prior to those subjects being incorporated into the natural science degree. And basically, interdisciplinarity has really been valued by Michelle Simmons. And okay, otherwise I'm going to run out of time. Cautions. So we've got limitations by the timetable, but the things we have timetabled the most popular combinations in terms of the joint honours degrees. Subjects like chemistry have a capacity issue, and they are tied to and some of our modules are tied to particular degree programs. So the vast majority of modules are available to a natural sciences student. There is the odd biology module that isn't, primarily because there's resource and spacing issues, lab spaces in the third year. But otherwise, most modules are available. But in terms of the progression, there's nothing that's bad that you're being blocked off from. I have to agree with students, or students have to agree with me what they want to do. And typically I would only raise an issue if there was a progression problem, and I've covered the maths